Good evening, everyone. I'm Dhruti Yatri, and you're watching Skyline. Every single day, thousands of Indians living abroad, they wake up to news that can quickly change their lives. Sometimes it is a new immigration rule. Sometimes it is a tax update. Sometimes it is a decision taken in Washington that ends up affecting a family sitting in Mumbai, Delhi, Hyderabad, or even Bengaluru. And that is exactly why Skyline exists. Because headlines are everywhere, but understanding what those headlines actually mean for your life, that's much more important. Today's Skyline is packed with 10 major developments. Some could affect your money, some could affect your visa, some could affect your career, and one of these stories can save you from making a very expensive mistake. So stay with me till the very end because every single update today matters if you are an Indian living in the US, planning to move there, study there, or simply have a life there. Ladies and gentlemen, let's begin with a rule that sounds small on paper, but it can very quietly cost people money every single time they send it home. Every month, millions of Indians in America do one thing without giving it much thought. They send money home. Maybe it's for parents, maybe it's for a home loan, maybe it's for children's education, or maybe it is simply to support family back in India. Now, for most people, sending money, it has become a routine. Open an app, enter the amount, press send, and that's it. But now, that is one rule that deserves your attention because the way you send that money, it could decide whether you pay an extra tax or not. And surprisingly, many people, they don't even know the difference. Here's what really happened. US government is actively enforcing a 1% federal excise tax on certain international money transfer. Now, before you panic, take a deep breath. This is not a tax on every transfer. That's the most important things to understand here. Well, the government is not saying that every Indian sending money home has to pay 1% extra. The rule is much more specific than that. It depends entirely on how you fund your transfer. Wait, let's make it very simple. Suppose you walk into a money transfer shop carrying cash. You hand over physical dollars, the company sends that money to India. In much of the cases, the tax can apply. Well, the same can happen if the payment is funded using instruments like money orders or cashier's checks. Well, the transfer company collects the tax and reports it to the IRS. So the deduction happens automatically. Now most people don't even notice it. Now compare that with another situation here. You log into your US bank account, you open your banking app, or you use a digital remittance platform that's directly linked to your checking account. Well, the money moves electronically. No physical cash, no over-the-counter payment. Now, in these situations, the transfer is generally exempt from this 1% excise tax under the policy described in the source material. So, the difference, it is not about who is sending the money. It is about how the money is being sent. And this is where many people unknowingly lose money because they continue sending old cash-based methods simply out of habit. Now, you may ask, why is the government doing this? Answer is simple. Governments around the globe, they are increasingly wanting financial transactions to leave a digital trail. Electronic transfers are easier to verify. Cash movements are harder to track, and that is why regulators are paying much closer attention to cash-funded international transfers. But the story goes far beyond 1%. The real message is much bigger. Today, international money transfers are no longer just about moving funds. They are becoming part of a much larger compliance system. The IRS now cross-checks different financial records much more aggressively than before. Foreign account disclosures, banking information, and international reporting requirements are becoming more connected now. So, if you own property in India, maintain NRE or NRO account, or regularly move large amounts between countries, keeping proper documentation is no longer an option for you. It is becoming a financial necessity. And honestly, a few extra minutes spent maintaining proper records today, it can save months of stress later. The smartest approach is surprisingly simple. Whenever it is possible, use verified digital banking channel. Keep your transfer receipt, maintain proper record for a large family gift or property transaction. And if you are moving significant amount across countries, understand the reporting requirement before the government asks questions. Because in today's world, it's not the transfer itself that creates problem. It is the missing paperwork. And that's a mistake nobody wants to discover years later. And yes, money is only one side of the story. But what if a single decision taken by the US Federal Reserve, it could change your home loan, your investment, and even the value of every dollar you send to India? Well, that is surely coming up next. Well, if you thought today's biggest financial story was only about sending money to India, think again, because the next decision we are going to talk about has the power to affect almost every Indian living in the US. Whether you are buying a home, paying a home loan, building your investment portfolio, saving for your retirement, or simply sending dollars back to your family in India, this one announcement, it matters to you. Ladies and gentlemen, the US Federal Reserve has decided to keep interest rates unchanged. At first, that sounds like a calm and predictable decision. No increase, no cuts. Everything stays the same. But wait, here's the interesting part. Sometimes the biggest story is not what the Federal Reserve does. It is what it tells the market about the future. And this time the message was loud, it was clear. Interest rates may not have gone up today, but they are not coming down anytime soon either. In fact, several top Federal Reserve officials, they openly disagree with keeping rates unchanged. They want another rate hike because inflation is still proving difficult to control. Well, that disagreement, it has sent one clear signal to investors across the globe. The fight against inflation is not over yet. Now, you may wonder, why should somebody working in California, Texas, New Jersey, or Washington care about Federal Reserve meeting, right? Because the impact does not stay inside the meeting room. It reaches your wallet as well. Now, let's start with home buyers here. If you have been planning to buy your first house in America, you have probably been waiting for mortgage rates to fall. Many people expected borrowings to become cheaper this year. But with interest rates expected to remain high, banks have little reason to offer significantly cheaper home loans. That means monthly EMIs are likely to remain expensive, and for many families buying a home, they may still have to wait a little longer. Now let's talk about something every Indian watches closely: the dollar versus the Indian rupee. When interest rates remain attractive in the US, global investors, they continue putting money into the American assets. And when more money flows into the US, the dollar usually stays strong. Now for Indians sending money home, that can actually be a good news. A stronger dollar means every transfer to India can convert into more rupees. The same amount of money suddenly carries greater value back home. Parents receive more, investments stretch further, and financial support becomes a little more powerful. But wait, here is another side to the story. Many Indians traditionally move their savings into NRE fixed deposit because Indian interest rate looks much higher. Today, the picture is changing. With US Treasury securities and money market investments offering attractive return while keeping your money in dollars, many investors are beginning to rethink where they park their savings. Once currency risk is considered, keeping some funds in US dollar asset may make more financial sense for certain investors, automatically shifting everything overseas. And if you work in tech sector, there is one more thing that you should pay attention to. Higher interest rate increase borrowing costs for companies. When companies spend more on financing, they often become more careful with hiring. Budgets become tighter, expansion plans slow down, performance expectations rise, and that's exactly why many tech companies continue focusing on efficiency and cost cutting. So even though today's announcement was not a rate hike, its impact, it could still be felt across jobs, investments, housing, and financial planning. The biggest lesson is this: don't make financial decisions assuming interest rate will fall soon. Review your plan, review your saving, think carefully before taking on a new debt. And if you are sending money to India, keep an eye on dollar because exchange rates can make a meaningful difference over time. The Federal Reserve didn't move today, but the financial world, it certainly did. Well, while America is deciding the future of interest rates, another country has quietly changed the future of international education. If Canada is part of your family's dream, the next update it could completely reshape your plans. Well, for years, Canada has been one of the biggest dreams for Indian families. Every year, parents spend their lives saving. Students take education loan, and families even sell properties, all with just one goal to give their children a better future through a Canadian education. Now, for many, studying in Canada was not just about getting a degree. It is the first step towards a building global career and eventually becoming a permanent resident. But today, that journey has become much more difficult. Ladies and gentlemen, the Canadian government has officially triggered its international student policy, and the numbers they clearly show the country is slowing down the entry of a new foreign student. This is not a rumor, by the way, this is not speculation. This is an official policy shift. While Canada has fixed a limit on the total number of study permit it plans to issue in 2026, and compared to previous year, the number has gone down. Most importantly, a large share of those permits is expected to go to students who are already studying in Canada and they are simply extending their permit. That means the number of seats available for brand new international students has become much more smaller now. Can you think about what this means? If you are planning to apply for Canada next year, you are not just competing with students from India, you are competing with applicants from across the globe for fewer available permits. That automatically makes admissions more competitive now. And this is where many families make an expensive mistake. They assume that getting admission into a college automatically means getting a study permit. Unfortunately, that's no longer the reality. Well, today choosing the right institution has just become as important as getting good marks. Well, the Canadian government is clearly changing its priorities. Instead of encouraging large number of students into private diploma colleges, the focus is shifting towards public institutions, universities, research programs, and master's degree, and most importantly, doctoral studies. In fact, under the updated policy, eligible master's and PhD students at public institutions receive significant advantage because they are treated very differently under the new permit framework. That sends a very clear message though. Canada is not shutting its doors completely. It is becoming much more selective about who it wants to welcome. And yes, there is another challenge that families need to prepare for. Studying abroad is becoming more expensive. Apart from tuition fee, students now have to demonstrate stronger financial capability to show they can comfortably support themselves while living in Canada. That means proper financial planning has become much more important than before. So before paying large admission deposit, before taking an education loan, and before assuming that every college offers the same opportunity, pause. Research carefully, check whether the institution is recognized. In fact, understand your long-term immigration options and don't make decisions based on social media videos or advice from unverified consultants. Because today, choosing the worst course, it could cost not only your money but also valuable years of your career. Ladies and gentlemen, the dream of studying in Canada, it is still very much alive. But unlike a very few years ago, success now depends on smarter plan, not just bigger spending. Well, students are facing stricter rules in Canada, but professionals working in America's biggest tech companies, they are dealing with an entirely different reality. One of the world's biggest tech giants has made a historic decision that could reshape thousands of careers. So let's move to our next story tonight. If you have been working in tech industry for the last few years, you have probably noticed one thing. The sector that once promised unlimited growth is rapidly changing now. Not long ago, tech companies, they were hiring aggressively. Employees had multiple job offers, salaries kept rising, stock options looked incredibly valued, and many believed that boom would continue for years now. But today, the whole conversation inside boardrooms, it is very, very different. Well, artificial intelligence is becoming the biggest investment priority. Companies are spending billions of dollars building AI infrastructure, expanding data centers, developing the next generation of artificial intelligence. And to make room for those investments, businesses are taking a hard cost here. And that is why one of the world's biggest tech companies has taken a decision that is being closely watched across Silicon Valley. Microsoft has introduced the first voluntary retirement buyout program in its history, targeting thousands of employees in the US. It is not just another HR announcement. It is a sign that even the biggest companies are changing the way they manage their workforces. Now, many people hear the word voluntary buyout and immediately think that it sounds like a good news. After all, the company is offering money, healthcare benefits, and additional support for employees who decide to leave. But before anybody celebrates, there is a much bigger question that needs to be asked. Is taking the package really the smartest move here? Well, the answer depends entirely on your personal situation. For somebody who was already planning to retire, the offer it may sound very attractive. For somebody who has another job lined up, it may provide a comfortable financial cushion. But for many Indian professionals working in the US, the decision is much more complicated because your career is not the only thing that is connected to your employer. Very often, your immigration status is too. That's right. If you are working on an H-1B visa or you are still waiting in the long employment-based green card process, voluntarily leaving your company, it could have immigration consequences that many employers don't immediately think about. Immigration timeline, visa rules, and pending applications all become important factors before accepting any separate package. And then, yes, there is another issue that deserves attention: stock compensation. For many senior engineers, managers, and tech leaders, a significant part of their wealth it is not their salary, it is their unvested RSUs. Walking away too early, it could mean giving up the stock that may become far more valuable over the next few years, specifically as AI continues to reshape the tech industry. And that is why looking only at cash payout, it can sometimes be misleading. The package may look very attractive today, but the long-term financial picture, it could tell a very different story. And here's another reality. When companies begin offering voluntary exit, employees who decide to stay often face a different environment. Performance expectations become tougher, managers are asked to do more with fewer people. Efficiency becomes the next priority, and in many cases, companies later move towards a stricter performance review and additional workforce reductions if their cost targets are not achieved. So, whether you accept the offer or you decide to stay, neither path is completely risk-free. This story isn't about Microsoft. It reflects a much larger shift that is happening across tech industry. Companies are entering an era where AI is receiving more investment than ever before. And naturally, every other business expense, it is being reviewed much carefully. Well, if you're working in tech, this is probably the right time to review your financial safety net. Understand how much emergency savings you have. Exactly know when your stock benefit vest. And if your immigration status depends on your current employer, never sign any agreement without first understanding how it could affect your legal position. Because in today's tech industry, the biggest career decisions are no longer only about salaries. They are about timing, they are about planning, they are about protecting your future. Career decisions are becoming more difficult for tech professionals. But for thousands of Indians waiting for their green cards, well, the next update is even more serious for you. A new US visa bulletin has brought an unexpected setback that could delay permanent residency for many families. And ladies and gentlemen, that is our next. For thousands of Indian professionals living in the US, every month it begins with one question: has my green card moved forward? It is the question that has become part of everyday life for an engineer, doctor, researcher, manager, and highly skilled professionals who have spent maybe years, sometimes even decades, waiting for their PR. Well, every new visa bulletin, it brings hope. Maybe this month, the priority date, it will move. Maybe this month, the wait will be finally shortened. But the next update, it has delivered exactly the opposite. The US State Department has announced that EB2 category for India, it is now completely unavailable for the remainder of the current fiscal year. That means all green card numbers allocated to Indian applicants under this category have already been used. Until the new fiscal year begins on October 1st, no additional EB2 green cards can be approved regardless of how long somebody has been waiting for. Now, when people hear the word unavailable, many immediately panic. Some think their application has been cancelled, others worry that years of waiting has gone to waste. Fortunately, this is not what this announcement really means, though. It simply means that the annual quota has been exhausted. Every fiscal year, the US has a fixed number of employment based green cards available. Once those numbers are fully allocated, the government cannot issue any more approvals until a fresh quota becomes available in the next fiscal year. Well, that recent happens on October when a new batch of employment based visa numbers is released. However, yes, there is another reason this bulletin has created concern. The State Department has also warned the EB1 category for Indian applicants is coming under heavy pressure. If demand continues at the current pace, even EB1 could temporarily be unavailable before the end of the fiscal year. Now, for many professionals who shifted to EB1 hoping to avoid the long EB2 backlog, this warning has become another reminder that immigration demand continues to outpace the available visa numbers here. And yes, there is one important point that every H-1B holder should remember. If you already have an approved I-140 petition, this temporary pause does not automatically affect your ability to continue extending your H-1B beyond the normal 6-year limit provided you meet the legal requirements. The green card process may slow down, but your underlying work authorization protection. It remains available under existing immigration law. So, what should you do? The answer is simple here. Don't panic. Don't make career decision based on only headlines. Keep your immigration document updated. Maintain your legal status. Stay in regular contact with your immigration attorney or your employer and keep your paperwork ready, because once the new fiscal year begins, the fresh visa numbers could become available. The process starts moving again. Now, for many families, the waiting period, it may become a little longer, but the journey itself, it has not ended. The green card process has always tested one thing more than anything, and that thing is patience. And once again, thousands of Indian professionals are being asked to wait just a little longer. And yes, the green card backlog is not the only concern for skilled Indian professionals. Even those applying through the faster EB1 category have now received a fresh warning from the US Department. And wait, here's why this matters. For years, thousands of Indian professionals believed that there was one way to escape the painfully long green card backlog. That route was EB1. Unlike EB2 and EB3, EB1 has always been considered the faster lane for highly skilled professionals. It is the category many senior executives, multinational managers, researchers, scientists, individuals with extraordinary achievement aim for, because the waiting period has historically been very, very shorter. And that is why more and more Indian professionals have spent the last few years trying to qualify for EB1. They upgraded their profiles, published research papers, accepted leadership role, and worked very closely with immigration lawyers, hoping that this category would finally bring them closer to PR. But now, even that faster lane, it is now showing signs of huge traffic jam. The US State Department has officially warned that EB1 India could also become unavailable before the current fiscal year ends. The reason is simple here. Demand has increased sharply, and the annual number of green cards available under this category, it is approaching its legal limit. Now, if that limit is reached before September 30, the government will temporarily stop approving EB1 green cards until the next fiscal year begins. Now, if you are already having an EB1 application in process, this announcement may sound alarming to you, but it is very important to understand what it actually means. An unavailable status that does not cancel your petition. It does not erase your priority date, and it does not mean you have to start the process all over again. It simply means that the government has run out of visa number for the current fiscal year. Once the annual quota is exhausted, immigration authorities are legally prevented from issuing additional green card until and unless fresh visa numbers become available on October 1st when the new fiscal year begins. Well, here's another important point that applicants should do remember. If your I-485 adjustment of status application has been filed and it is pending, then the case does not disappear. It simply remains pending until and unless new visa numbers become available. During this waiting period, applicants with valid employment authorization documents and advanced payroll, they can generally continue using those benefits while the final green card approval is on hold. Well, for professionals who are planning to file under EB1, timing has suddenly become much more important to you. Every document, every filing date, every update from the State Department now matters because if the category becomes unavailable before your application reaches the right stage, your final approval could be pushed into the next fiscal year. Well, this also highlights a much bigger trend in the US immigration, by the way. The demand for employment-based green card, it continues to grow much faster than the number of visas that are available each year. Highly skilled professionals are arriving in record numbers. Tech industries continue hiring global talent. Research institutions continue attracting experts from around the globe. But the annual green card quota has remained largely unchanged. As a result, even the categories that were once considered relatively fast, they are becoming expensive. They are becoming a lot of pressure. So, what should applicants do here? Stay informed. Track every monthly visa bulletin very carefully. Keep your immigration documents updated, and if you are planning to file, make sure your paperwork is complete and ready instead of waiting until the last minute. Because in today's immigration system, success is not only about eligibility. Well, it is also about timing. And sometimes a delay of just a few weeks can become a delay of several months. Immigration paperwork is not the only document that can create trouble for Indians living in America. There is another financial form that many people ignore every single year. And that single mistake, it could result in penalties running into thousands of dollars. Well, let's talk about the F-bar rule next. If I ask you to name the biggest financial mistakes that Indians make after moving to the US, most people would probably say not filing taxes properly. Some might say making a mistake while investing. Others will say forgetting to report foreign income. But here's another document that quietly catches thousands of people every year. And surprisingly, many people don't even know that it exists. It is called the F-bar, short for Report of Foreign Bank and Financial Account. At first, the name, it may sound very complicated, but the rule itself is actually quite simple. If you are considered a US person for tax purposes and the combined balance of your foreign financial account crosses about $10,000 at any point during the year, you may be required to report those accounts to the US Treasury Department. Now, this is where many families get confused. They assume the $10,000 limit that applies to each individual account. No, it does not. Ladies and gentlemen, the government looks at the combined value of all your foreign account altogether. Let's say that you have one saving account in India, an NRE account, an NRO account, a fixed deposit, and maybe even a DMART account for investment. Individually, if we see, then none of these crosses $10,000. But if the highest combined balance of all those accounts during the years goes up the limit, the reporting requirement can apply. And wait, here's something that surprises many people. The rule is not limited to accounts where your money is kept. If you have signature authority over a foreign account or if your name it appears on a joint account with your parents or another family member, that account may also needs to be considered depending on your circumstances. And now comes the question everyone asks. What if I don't own any tax on that money? Why do I still have to report it? You have to because the F-bar is not a tax form. It is an information reporting requirement. US government simply wants taxpayers to disclose qualifying foreign financial account. Now, whether you own the tax on the money, it is completely a separate issue. But that distinction, It is extremely important. Ladies and gentlemen, another common misunderstanding is that people think that F-bar is filed along with their annual income tax return. It isn't. The F-bar is filed separately through the Treasury Department's electronic filing system, and although the standard due date it aligns with tax season and automatic extension, it is generally available until October 15th. And you know what happens if somebody forgets to file it? This is where things become serious. Even when the failure is considered non-willful, civil penalties could still be significant under current rule. And if authorities determine that somebody deliberately failed to report qualifying account, the financial consequences can become far more severe. Well, the good news is that forgetting to file in previous years, it does not always mean the situation cannot be corrected. The US government has voluntary compliance procedures available for certain eligible taxpayers who made genuine mistakes and who want to come back into compliance. So you know what should every Indian living in America should do? Start by making a list of every foreign financial account you own. Check the highest balance each account reached during the year. Keep proper bank statements. Review whether you meet the reporting threshold. And if you are unsure, don't guess. Take professional advice before the filing. Because sometimes the cost of asking an expert, it is much more smaller than the cost of fixing a mistake later on. Biggest lesson from this story is simple. Owning a bank account in India, it is not a problem. Not understanding your reporting responsibility, that could be. Well, financial compliance is important, we do agree, but for thousands of Indian students in America, an even bigger change is about to take place. The US government is rewriting one of the most fundamental rules of the F-1B student visa, and it could change how students plan their future. And that's our next story, by the way. Well, for thousands of Indian students getting an admission letter from an American university, it is one of the happiest moments of their lives. It is the beginning of a new journey, a new country, a new education, a new career. And for many families, it represents years of hard work, careful planning, and significant financial investment. So, while students spend months preparing for university life, there is one document that quietly decides how long they can legally stay in the US. Well, that document is the I-94 arrival record. And now, the US government has decided to make one of the biggest changes to the student visa system in decades. Well, for years, most F-1 students entered the United States under a system known as Duration of Status, or DS. Under the system, students could remain in the country as long as they maintained their student status and they continued meeting the requirement of their academic program. But that system is definitely changing. Beginning September 15, 2026, the Department of Homeland Security will replace the traditional duration of status system into a fixed period of admission. Instead of receiving an open-ended DS notation on the I-94, many students will now receive a specific expiration date based on the length of their academic program, subjected to the limit outlined in the new rule. Now, you may ask, why does this matter so much? It does, because under the earlier system, universities played a much larger role in helping students maintain their status. Now, students will have to pay much closer attention to the expiry date mentioned on their I-94. Well, if their program takes longer than expected, or if they need additional time for academic reason, simply extending the university paperwork, it may no longer be enough in every case. Depending on their situation, they may also need to apply USCIS for an extension of stay before their authorized period expires. And yes, there is another important change. The post-study grace period has also become shorter under the updated rule. That means students will have less time after completing their program to decide whether they want to leave the US, transfer to another institution, or move to the next stage of their immigration journey. Naturally, this has created anxiety among students and parents. Many are wondering whether this will affect OPT, STEM OPT, or even future H-1B application. Well, the good news is that these programs continue to exist under the updated framework. However, students will now need to plan much more carefully and ensure that their immigration paperwork is completed on time. So, there are no unexpected gaps in their legal status. And yes, there is one more point that current students should remember. If you are already studying in the US before these new rules take effect, the transition work differently for somebody who's entering the country after the implementation date. However, once you travel outside the US and return, the new admission rule may apply depending on your circumstances. Now, what should you do? Start checking your immigration documents regularly. Know the exact expiry date on your I-9 form. Stay in close contact with your designated school official and never wait until the last few weeks before your status expires to begin the extension process. Because when it comes to immigration, missing even one deadline, it can sometimes create problems that takes months or even years to fix. Well, the biggest lesson from this update, it is quite simple. Getting admission into an American university, it is only the first step for you. Well, maintaining your immigration status has now become just as important as earning your degree. Students are adjusting to new immigration rules, but another group of immigrants is facing even tougher challenge. Thousands of commercial truck drivers across the US, they are now under spotlight after a major federal crackdown. Well, here's what really happened. Now, when people think about Indian community in the US, they often picture software engineers, doctors, entrepreneurs, or students. But no, there is another community that quietly keeps America's economy move every single day. The trucking community. Thousands of Indian origin drivers, particularly from Punjab and Haryana, they have spent years transporting goods across America. From food supplies and medicine to electronics and household products, they play a very important role in keeping supply chain running. But now the entire industry is facing one of the biggest challenges in recent years. The Trump administration has launched a major enforcement drive targeting commercial trucking regulations. Federal authorities have cancelled thousands of commercial driving licenses held by immigrant drivers, and they have also taken action against thousands of driving schools that were accused of violating federal standards. Naturally, this announcement has created a lot of concern across the trucking community. Well, many drivers, they're asking the same question again and again. Who is actually affected? Here the answer depends on an individual's immigration status and licensing record. According to the enforcement measures, authorities are placing greater emphasis on verifying employment authorization, commercial licensing requirement, and compliance with federal transportation rules. States are also facing increased pressure to ensure that commercial driving records remain fully updated and compliant with federal standards. One of the biggest areas of enforcement involves English language proficiency. Well, federal transportation rules already require commercial drivers to read the road signs, communicate with law enforcement officers, and understand official instructions in English. The latest crackdown places much greater attention on enforcing these existing requirements during inspections. And yes, there is another important issue. Some commercial licenses issued to temporary workers remained active even after changes in immigration or employment status. Federal regulators are now conducting broader audits to identify licenses that may no longer meet the updated eligibility requirements. And at the very same time, the federal government has announced initiative to encourage more military veterans to enter the trucking industry just in order to help address driver shortage created by these enforcement action. So you know what this all means for the Indian origin truck drivers? If you are a US citizen or a green card holder with a valid documentation, this announcement, it does not automatically affect your ability to continue driving commercially. However, experts recommend ensuring that all the records with your State Department of Motor Vehicle remain accurate and up to date. Well, for drivers working under temporary immigration status, message is even more important. Review your immigration document. Ensure your commercial license information matches your current legal status. Keep your employment records updated and always remain fully prepared for roadside inspection and compliance check. This story is not about trucking. It reflects a broader trend that is becoming increasingly visible across different sectors in the US. Regulators are placing much greater emphasis on documentation, compliance, and verification. Whether you are a student, whether you are a tech professional, business owner, or commercial driver, the expectation is becoming the same. And yes, our final story today is very different from the ones we have discussed so far. After talking about immigration, taxes, and compliance, let's end on the positive note. One US state has made a historic announcement that celebrates the achievement of Indian community like never before. After covering stories about taxes, visas, immigration rule, and financial compliance, let's end today's episode with the positive news because sometimes, amid all the policy change and legal updates, there are moments that remind us just how far the Indian community has come. And this is one of those moments. The state of Massachusetts has officially declared August 15, 2026 as India Day. At the very same time, the city of Boston has also issued its own proclamation recognizing India's Independence Day and celebrating the remarkable contribution of Indian American community. At first, some people may think that this is simply a symbolic gesture, a ceremonial announcement, maybe a cultural celebration to them. But it is actually representing something much bigger. It reflects how deeply the Indian community has become a part of American society. Today, Indian Americans are leading some of the world's biggest tech industry. They are conducting cutting-edge research in the world recognized universities. They are serving as doctors, scientists, entrepreneurs, professors, innovators, business leaders. And in states like Massachusetts, their contribution extends far beyond the economy. It is visible in education, healthcare, biotechnology, AI research, and public life. And that's exactly why this proclamation acknowledges. According to the announcement, Massachusetts is home to the large and growing Indian origin population whose contribution continues to strengthen state's economy, innovation, ecosystem, and academic institution. But yes, there is another development that makes this announcement even more important. For years, many Indians living across New England had traveled to New York for important consular services, whether it was renewing a passport, in fact, applying to an OCI card, getting powers of attorney, or handling emergency travel document. People often had to spend both time and money traveling long distances. And that is now beginning to change. The establishment of Indian consulate in Boston will make these services much more accessible for thousands of Indians living across the region. Routine consular work that once required travel to another city can now be handled much closer to home, making life easier for students, professionals, business owners, and families. And with that, we wrap up our today's edition of Skyline. Ladies and gentlemen, we talked about Indians who are making India proud on the foreign land. But with that, we need to make sure that we are loyal to all the immigration, all the visa laws, all the tax laws of the United States. Well, I'm Dhriti Athri. This was Skyline, and I'll see you in the next episode.